Hello, hello. Welcome back to RSQ. We are on today with Martin Cahill. Cahill, is that how you pronounce your last name?
You got it in one, baby.
There we go.
Heck yeah.
Marty for short. So Marty wrote Audition for the Fox, which we read at the very end of December. Absolutely loved it and reached out and said, hey, would you like to join us? Would you like to talk about your book? And here he is to talk about his book. So we're excited to spend some time with him today and get to know the man behind the fox, get to know where all the inspiration came from, where the story is from, and get to know more about him. Because Martin, I think you do some cool stuff, judging by what I found on Google. So I'm excited to ask some more about it.
Hey, you can pry my secrets from my cold, dead hands, but I'll talk about what I can.
We'll try.
I will say I hope you found the right me. And by that, I mean, there is a famous Irish gangster named Martin Cahill who was an art thief and had the nickname The General. So so my SEO has been screwed before I was born, essentially. But if I was going to have any guy usurp my name, or rather, I think I usurped his. I mean, he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
If you admire those people, which you should, because, why not? What's life without a little risk? Like
I have a lot of questions to delete now about being an Irish gangster. I have to change my whole format here.
Sorry, guys. I won't, not my secrets to give, but I'll talk about books. And in all sincerity, thank you guys for having me on. Big fan of what y'all do. So glad to see, of course, new places and new channels for book talk and book talking come to fruition, especially for close friends like yourselves. And thank you so much for reading it. I say this in the book. I mean it so sincerely. It is the one place where like the author shines through. Attention and time are the true currencies of the age. You don't get them back. And there are many things you could spend them on. So thank you for spending a little bit on me and my.
Well, really is our pleasure. It was a privilege for us to be able to consume your story, consume your material.
Yeah. We actually, I don't know about, I think Dakota took 2 days because he's slow. He's a slow reader, but I read it in one sitting. So really enjoyed it. And there's a little bit of a meme there too, because Dakota always reads books faster than me.
We have an ongoing
slow one.
Yeah. We buddy read all our books together. And so I frequently will read books in between. And so I was actually, I believe I was reading your book while he finished the last book. And then I was like, hey, if you're looking for something to read today, I'm really enjoying this.
I'll tell you what actually happened. What had happened was I finished a book before him for the first time in forever. And he was like, I was like, I'm at work. I need something short to read. He goes, found this online, read it. No intro, no nothing. I'm like, looks interesting. I just saw the cover and it drew me in. I'm like, sure. And I read it in a sitting. I was hooked. So I was like, I'm really happy with it. So before we get on another tangent, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and all about Marty.
Yeah, certainly. I do enjoy the rivalry of reading. It's really the hare and the hare, but you're both riding tortoises, which I find a fun image.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you for reading. So a little bit about me. I'm officially in my mid-30s. I live in Westchester County, just above New York City, but I was a New York City kid for about 10 years, popping between Hell's Kitchen and Astoria. And I'm originally from Rockland County, which is just across the bridge from Westchester. So I have a nice little triangulation of area that I live in. But was born in Boston, so I can't legally talk about sports within the confines of New York State. And I went to school in Albany, where talking about sports from Boston maybe was even worse. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been a reader for as long as I can remember. I've been reading since I was very, very little. I've continued that trend. I currently am getting my MFA in creative writing with a specialization in education, so I can go on to teach creative writing and like be a teacher for writers like myself who, I was very lucky. I've had a cornucopia, a plethora of incredible mentors and teachers who have, many of whom have become friends and contemporaries, and hit a point in my life where I wanted to start learning how to give back in the way that I received, and just become a better part of community. So I'm doing that. I'm working at a local coffee shop / beer shop, depending on your druthers at the time you walk in.
Okay.
And I do a boatload of freelance. I also I do freelance in the D&D world, TTRPGs, fiction anthologies, gaming, IP stuff. You know, I've written coloring books, I've written coffee table books. So, you know, I've done radio dramas, book reviews, essays, all sorts of fun stuff. So, I was mentioning with Dakota prior to this starting, there are a lot of things in this life that I love that I really, really wanted to get involved in, and then I did, and then it became work. So, luckily, I still love all that stuff. So, it's just nice to be able to get a paycheck for it once in a while. But I'm married to the love of my life, who has the most French first name, but she's 100% Italian. Which is wonderful, and we are, yeah, life is good. I had the book has been out for about 4 months now, which is wild since it took me 6 years to write, and then, you know, it sold almost 2 years ago, and then publishing is very, very fast, and then it's very, very slow. And I think that's all I'll spiel about for now until our next question.
Radio dramas. I hadn't found any radio dramas when I was stalking you on the interwebs.
I was very lucky. I got to, I mean, podcast, but it's billed as a radio drama from Realm Media, and excuse me, coffee down the wrong pipe. But so it was a Batman IP radio drama with Kat Valenti was the head writer, and Kay Arsenault Rivera, who was one of the other co-writers with me. And we wrote a 10-issue Batman radio drama with an adventure with Zatanna and many, many, many C-level villains, such as Mr. Calculator and Condiment King. And it was a blast. I don't think anybody remembers it, but I do, and it was fun.
Very cool.
Well,
that sounds like a lot of fun.
It was my my only time ever working on something superhero-y for now, and it was a blast. You know, it was basically channeling every episode of Batman the Animated Series I've watched into this. That was like, because they were like DC's like, here's the rules: you can't use Harley Quinn, you can't use Joker, don't use any good villain, and Batman's not an asshole and he doesn't kill. And we were like, okay. And they were like, that's it though, everything else is fair game. But yeah, I mean, you know, getting to, when I think like general audience, everybody's Batman, I think, for me at least, 1990s Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, you know, Batman Adventures, the animated series, you know, like that's my that's where I go to. So I was like, let me channel as much, you know, Kevin Conroy as much as possible here. So
the classic animated series really were built different. The 90s ones, well, Spider-Man, Batman,
the Spider-Man one grew up in my house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those Spider-Man for me as well.
Spider-Man, X-Men, Superman animated series, Batman animated series, Justice League, JLU. Yeah, I mean, something happened in like 2007, or I don't know. I mean, hey, get this, a lot of things happen because that's what life is. But yeah, that like little golden era right in the mid to late 90s was perfect.
I've got boxes and boxes of comic books in this room. We haven't touched on any comic related material on this channel before.
That's true.
Maybe
one day.
It's just
we'll
waiting.
get there.
Yeah, we'll have to start a
doors.
weekly comic review.
Hell yeah!
But how did you
go for it, Dakota?
I'm really interested in how you got into writing and publishing work for both comic work, D&D work, and then how that led to you writing a book. How did you get started? Where did you begin? Who discovered you? Did someone come down to Hell's Kitchen and say, Marty, you're the one?
Who am I? Hi, I'm not a number, I'm a man. Shout out to The Prisoner and Les Mis.
The theater kid is popping out right now.
The theater kid is dancing and singing. Oh boy, that's my origin story. I'll keep it as brief as possible. Always a big reader. Always wanted to make things. When I was in 4th grade, I wanted to be a baker. So that's where a lot of my baking passion comes from, is like, I like to, you know, it's kind of got the same roots, right? Like you're making something from scratch. You are creating something to satisfy other people. You are sharing something with people. And it wasn't until later in, I guess you call it middle school, like 7th, 8th grade, you know, I had like the story ideas and superhero ideas and concepts and all these things here and there, but had never committed to anything pen to paper yet. And we had just finished reading Tom Sawyer. And my teacher was like, hey, here's a little writing exercise for you, my small kiddos. Write me, you know, 3 to 5 pages of a story that comes after. Give us a little like what comes next for Tommy Boy and what's her face. And I came back and I was like, here's 23 pages. And it was like his aunt died. He's framed for murder. His
Oh,
ex-wife is
jeez.
coming. Like, it was this whole thing. And I distinctly remember my teacher saying to me, she was like, Martin, because Marty didn't start happening as a thing until like college. She was like, Martin, I'm really impressed you did this. And I'm really glad you did this. I'm not going to read this all, but I like good work. And I was like, okay, cool. And from there, just, I mean, even being given permission to do the thing, right? Like to give it a shot and to know I can tell my own stories. Wrote all through high school, wrote my first play. We did my play at my high school.
Wow, that's
for
pretty cool.
one night only, which was hilarious. But that happened, which was, there were all these moments in, I guess you'd say, like in my younger years where I had this passion, had this enthusiasm for telling stories and making stuff. And I was given an opportunity. I was given a chance. And that doesn't always happen. I was very lucky that the guy who ran the theater program at my high school was super chill and didn't give a, I don't know if I can swear here, but didn't give a,
You can swear.
You can swear.
he didn't give a shit about, what the school would or would not have wanted. And I was like, I poked my head in like the last day of sophomore year and I was like, hey, Mr. Mello, can I write a play for the fall? And he was like, what's it going to be? And I said, I don't know, probably some kind of murder mystery thing. And he was like, yeah, show me what you got in September. So I spent all summer writing it and I showed up with it and he went, you were serious. And I said, yeah. And, but God, like, early lessons in storytelling, but especially early lessons in collaborative storytelling. Like that was, I don't mind saying it. I will commit it to public record here. And my friends from high school know it. I know it. I was an asshole during that process. I didn't mean to be. I wasn't trying to be, but there were a lot of moments when in that process, I was an asshole because I was just being so protective of this thing that I wrote. And I wisely brought it to a medium where it is inherently collaborative. And it was a great lesson in being a part of a team and learning to listen to others and make yourself available to inspiration. And if you're going to tell a story with people, guess what? You got to let them tell it with you. You can't dictate how they feel about what you've done. And you've got to be okay with people having thoughts and opinions. So, super early lessons. And that continued through college. I started doing short fiction in high school, started submitting stuff in college, racks of rejection letters, coming through. But I also did a lot of plays in college. I did some screenwriting in college. I tried different mediums. And again, like just keeping on, just learning from every angle. Like and still like I am I'm neurodivergent, but I'm a middle-class cis straight dude. Like I've got a lot of privilege in my life that others don't. And I did my best to navigate those things. I still try my best to navigate those things and to, be working with other people and giving those opportunities as much as I got them when I was younger. So yeah, like keeping that in mind. And again, like learning to accept criticism, learning to accept that, hey, you're not hot shit. Get this. You're a young guy trying to learn how to write. So are the next 1,000 people, even like you, let alone people who aren't like you, who are still trying to learn and have even higher walls and longer roads like you will. You learn how to accept growth. I think that's something that's kept me going, is like always being open to, I'm not going to get it right 100%. One of my favorite lessons I've ever learned, I was at Clarion, spoilers for what comes next in the story, but I was at Clarion Writers Workshop in 2014. And one of my teachers was N.K. Jemisin, Nora Jemisin, who, she's a goddamn legend. She's a MacArthur genius, one of the finest writers of our generation. And her lesson to us almost 12 years ago now was, hey, I'm a middle-aged Black woman writing in sci-fi, and I'm not going to get it right all the time. I'm going to screw up. Like, am I part of certain communities that people might give me a pass for? Yeah, but they shouldn't. Like, I need to be learning and, hold myself accountable. And what you do is if someone comes to you and says, hey, you fucked up here or whatever, your job is to go, hey, I'm so sorry about that. Let me learn and do better next time in whatever ways you're able to make possible. Um, so staying open to all those things I don't know, I'm glad of the growth I've gone through as a writer. Still think there's a way to go because you're always growing and learning. Now more on the teaching side for me, but yeah, from college, I was like, oh, I want to be involved in publishing. I know I want to be a writer full time someday, haha, if I can. Um, so let's
Man,
learn
one
about.
day, right?
I mean, I was like, let's learn about publishing though. Like so I did. I worked the majority of my years in publicity and marketing, but like I spent time doing freelance for an agency. I've done editorial. I've learned a little production. Social media. So learning the ins and outs of this system, and like as a young guy out of college, like going to New York City and like going to several book events a week and meeting people and shaking elbows and rubbing hands, like building that little community of people who were like you, who were like, hey, I'm the assistant to the assistant, who like one of my favorite people in the industry is my guy Bradley Englert, he started as like an editorial assistant at Skyhorse Books, which I will commit to public record, Skyhorse Books, fucking awful. Bad company. The leadership there is terrible. Everyone else who works there, I know, is trying their hardest. And I was there, and I was one of them for a little while. But my buddy Bradley started as editorial assistant, and now he is like the head editor for Orbit's horror line, Run For It.
Wow.
And he edits like James S.A. Corey and Brent Weeks, and like
Wow.
is the guy who's like, yeah, I had to tell James S.A. Corey, blah, 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 in their latest book. And I was like, what was that like? And he was like, oh, they're professionals. And I was like, that's great.
Those are all like right there.
Yeah, like he was like, he's like, yeah, working on book 2. I was like, that's, to think like we were literally in a room, crammed shoulder to shoulder, 10 people in a small like bedroom size office of just like the newbies, the kids. But yeah, like you get to see like, hey, 12 years on now, like my friend has done well, and like look how he's grown, went to Clarion Writers Workshop, and I know I said I would keep this short, and whoa, is it not? Guess who never learned the meaning of the word brief? Wow, my ADHD is on absolute display. I'm so sorry, my friends.
It's okay. We do this every time we film. We rant for like we get so distracted.
Yeah, we got like 10 points we go through, and then like we've been on point 4, but not talking about point 4 for like 30 minutes. Like we need,
I will do my best to condense. Sold my first short story in 2013. Sold the second one not too long after. Got into the Clarion Writers Workshop out in San Diego. Did that in the summer of 2014. Came back, had some success selling short fiction for the next couple of years. Had a spot where I was selling nothing, which there's a hilarious interaction I had online where, like, I finally ended after a couple of years, was started selling stuff again. And someone was like, I'm so proud that you took yourself out of the game and you let yourself grow and you took that time for yourself. And I was like, no, I didn't. I was trying, but no one wanted to buy my stuff because I was learning to get better. And I would never voluntarily stop writing. And, which I thought was very funny because they meant it in a supportive way.
Right.
And I was like, there's nothing supportive about looking at a guy and going, why aren't you climbing this mountain? And he's just climbing a different mountain.
Glad you stopped climbing the mountain.
I mean, hey baby, we're always climbing the mountain. But yeah, I started selling some stuff again. And yeah, over the years have just been working, and when you were saying the branching off into different places, that just comes from having friends and being open about wanting to try stuff and or there's a way to move through any industry. And any kind of artistic medium, I feel like is so weird because you're my rules, whenever I talk to younger writers, I'm like, gotta remember, you're in this industry. You're not hot shit. Whether you're starting out or you've been around for a while, you gotta stay open. You gotta remain be humble, meet people as they are, stand on equal footing. Don't be a dick. Don't be a creep. No, don't try to use people. They'll, people can sniff that from a mile away. you gotta, stay grounded. But on the other hand, you've got to be confident. You got to believe in yourself. You got to like know your worth. The stories you're telling are only the stories you can tell. So you got to tell them. You got to tell them well. Don't think you can't tell them well because you can fucking tell them well. But but remember, so it's always just like it's this very
It's such a fine line.
It's a very
Listen, there's
weird.
two sides to every coin. You just have to be both.
You just have to land exactly on the side
Yeah.
and not move an inch. But yeah, I mean, like for example, my me starting at TTRPGs, I'm friends with and again like met and contacted and became friends with Cassandra Caw ages ago through some internet interaction. I like their work, they like my work. We became pals. We're chatting one day, and I'm like, "Oh, would love to do TTRPGs," and they were like, "Well, I'm working on this D&D book with this person, James Hake. You should meet." And before I could even go, "Yeah, that'd be cool someday," they've already put me in like a group chat with James and them, and they were like, "James, Marty, James, friends now." And like, and like I think a good example is, we ended up like having a meeting and saying hi and like getting to know each other a little bit. And again, I'd had practice, like as a young person going to book things, if an agent walked up to me and was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I'm a writer." And they're like, "What are you working on?" You can't be like, "Nothing. Oh, sorry for bothering you." Oh. Like, it's it's okay to say, "Hey, I'm writing this fantasy thing, and here's a little sentence about it." Great. They asked you what you're working on. You're not like martyring yourself by denying them their question.
Yeah.
But you can't also be like, "And here's the first 40 pages." Um, like, so in meeting with Joey, like Joey was like, James was like, "Hey, do you want to work in TTRPGs?" And I was like, "Yeah, at some point, that'd be really cool. I'm a big fan. I've done that, blah, blah, blah." Like you make your thoughts known. And sometimes, like 6 months later, Joey circled back and was like, "Hey, let's like get like 5,000 words from you on this thing. Let's see how it feels. We'll work together." And if it hadn't gone well, I wouldn't do it again, but it went well. So we're, like, it's a fine line, but like, I think it ultimately comes down to like, and this is just navigating the industry stuff. This is not about my writing career at all anymore. But like, to finish put the bow on it is like staying grounded, being kind, and being considerate of the other person. Like my 2 words have always been like, you want to be direct but kind. You want to be persistent but patient. Like you want to, those are the things that like are ultimately that balance. And yeah, long story short, I kept writing. I've been writing a bunch of short fiction out there, and then I've done a bunch of novel attempts that went and got a lot of nice rejections from people that were my friends and people who were other industry professionals. And then the Once Upon a Time with the Fox came by, and that's a whole other long story. But I ended up working with this incredible editor, my friend Brent Lambert. If you are unfamiliar with him and his game, I cannot recommend his novella enough. I need to my brain, I gotta look it up because I don't want to do this injustice. And my brain, come on, unnecessary chaos. There we go. I've read it. I loved it. My brain went blank. Brent, if you're listening, I know your book. I'm sorry. But
He's
Brent
not
is
actually your
wonderful.
friend. He forgot.
No,
Don't believe him.
Dun dun dun. No, Brent is fantastic. But he acquires for Tor.com Publishing, and we had when he got that role, I had reached out to him and I was like, "Oh, LOL, I'm gonna send you a bunch of stuff." And he was like, "Cool, do it. I'm calling your bluff." And I was like, "Oh no." But I'd had this story I was working on in the back of my mind, and I was like, "Hey, it's too short to be a book, but it's also too long to be a story. You're looking for novellas." And he was like, "Yeah, it sounds cool." Like worked on several rounds of edits with him, but then he had to run it by somebody at Tor, which is totally, again, like this is no shade to them at all. But that editor that he ran it by, they were like, "Not for us." And I was like, "Well, shit, okay." And Brent was like, "What the heck?" And I was like, like, again, this is an industry where shit happens. It's all good. Rejection happens. But my friend who became my publicist at Tachyon, because like any good millennial, I posted about it on Instagram very vaguely. And she was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Rejection." And she was like, "Well, our editor here, Jamie Go, she reads novellas. If you want, I could put it on her desk. And I said, that would be lovely. And then 6 months later, email from Jamie, hey, let's do this thing. And I was like, well, let me go find an agent first. And then 2 days after that, so big old Katamari Damacy ball of anxiety, nerves, story ideas, friendships, love, loss, life, and more in the chaotic age of our youth. I don't know. I'm clearly running into a wall, but I'll stop.
Man, it sounds like a roller coaster.
I had so many thoughts and I didn't write any of them down in my talk. I'm like, I have to mention this. I have to mention this. I have to mention this. But it kind of just sounds like, you make friends and you're a nice person and for the doors open type thing. And writing seems like a super humiliating process, like you were talking about, to say the least. Facing rejection.
Remember,
after
we don't
rejection,
king shame here.
We could
I'm
have
not
said
shaming at
we
all.
could have said humbling. Instead, we chose humiliating.
Did I say humiliating? I meant
Well,
humbling.
I
meant humbling.
I got a great laugh out of it. You're good, my friend. I thought
I didn't even pick it up until Dakota said something. I was like, what have I done?
I thought it was fucking hilarious. I was like, okay, Curtis, I see
Your
that.
job is actually just ridiculous, and I hate you for it.
Sounds
So Marty,
humiliating.
what's it like being a clown? So you fool.
Humbling experience. Man, I lost my whole. I just derailed myself with that. I'm gonna segue, and not even segue. It's just a complete brick wall into a question. About Audition for the Fox, just because. So one of our questions we have is like, if your book would be adapted into something, if someone was like, you know what, I want to see this somehow not on this piece of paper, how would you, if you got to pick, if they were like, hey, what do you want to do? We'll do it. What medium would you want that as? Like a film, some sort of like quick 10-episode Netflix series or something, like a play, anything that you were like, you know what? Would you direct, star in, wrote? Would you do your whole thing, or what?
Would you
how
be
would
the
you like
fox?
to see it? Yeah.
First of all, I'm so sorry for shunting off your preview. Whatever that question was going to be, I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Totally fine.
But just to make a quick note on what you had said, like, yeah, it can be a very humbling industry, and that's one of the things that you need is persistence. You need to be like this incredible writer, Brooke Bollander. If you've not heard of them, they have this The Only Harmless Great Thing is their debut novella from Tor.com. It's basically about like the radium girls and graveyard elephants and nuclear waste, and it's amazing. But Brooke was a Clarion writer from 2011, and we were talking one time, and they were like, I don't think I'm even the best person from my class, but I'm one of the only people still writing because everyone else stopped. Like out of a class of like 16 people, it was Brooke and maybe someone else that were still doing it because it can wear you down. A lot of this rejection can wear you down. A lot of like supposed gates, like I keep mentioning Clarion. Clarion's a great workshop. Clarion West, if you get a chance to go, or Tin House or Viable Paradise or wherever, if you get a chance to go to a workshop, fantastic. You don't have to do that. There's no one right path to be doing this. And I think a lot of like internet culture of like the early aughts to mid aughts have been like, well, if you don't do X, you're not a real writer. And it's like,
yeah, you don't do it the right way.
Right, exactly. Like Chuck Wendig said it well of like, hey, get this. Do you write? You're a writer. Do you get paid to write? Great. You're a paid writer. That's it. So I've always thought that was a good way to go about it. But yeah, like, I don't know, just like I think once I realized that networking, because my mom, bless her, she's always been like, well, you'll learn to network and like you'll get to like meet people. And I was always like, networking, what a dirty word. I don't want to use people. And then I grew out of my self-righteousness and I realized that, networking is just making friends. And I love making friends. So I was like, oh, yeah, because if you try to network like I had thought and try to use people, everyone can tell that from like a mile off and they go, cool, man, see you never. So yes, back to the question at hand.
Really quick to further go down the rabbit hole. It's an interesting change of pace for us because we've talked to a lot of indie authors because it's a lot easier to make connections with indie authors on social media through, starting up a platform. And so we've talked to a lot of indie authors about their pathway to release. So it's interesting to hear you talk about networking on that side and people getting discouraged and not having perseverance, and also comparing that internally with like what we've heard from indie authors about how difficult it is to just publish books, even when they're self-published, or trying to pursue it at all and trying to get help with it.
Yeah.
It seems like a war of attrition, like with yourself. Like, who's going to give up first? Like the writer in you, or
yeah. I think that's what, there are so many legitimate reasons not to do it. There are so many reasonable ways to end your day and go, God, I'm tired. And that's cool. Like, the job of anybody in the community is not to tell a fellow writer, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong." It's to go, "Hey, I got your back." And damn, it sucks that you're not writing right now. I miss your work, but like, you gotta take care of yourself. I think war of attrition with oneself is a really good way to think about it, because that is often the person you are struggling the most against. Is my wife is not standing in front of my writing chair with a sword and a shield saying, "Get past me." It's me doing that, but I don't have a sword and shield. I have a bag of potato chips and going, "Now we could go downstairs and play games." And I'm like, "You're right, me." Yeah, the only way
you got the
is
devil and the angel right here. Stop writing, keep going.
The poison for Cusco.
Cusco's poison.
Cusco's poison.
My spinach puffs.
Derailed.
This
is very tangential, but I'll say my favorite moment is when the devil Kronk goes, "Yeah, well, watch this," and starts doing push-ups, and Kronk goes, "I don't see what," and Angel Kronk goes, No, he's right. That's pretty cool." Because it's like, it doesn't make any sense, but it's just funny. Yes, it takes a lot. And I think throughout this whole thing, plus you add like the pandemic and the world's on fire, and it's been on fire for over a decade. It's been on fire for before that and before that and before that. Like,
the fire never seems to go out.
And the Billy Joel just changes colors at this point.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I think the thing that and this is true of every author I've ever met, and regardless of medium, it's the idea of like the people who are the most persistent, who, when they do their best to like take care of themselves and navigate things, are those who eventually come back to it, because you can't not do it. You can't not do it.
It's a very interesting place to be, where you've got to be the one that always believes in your story, and other people say, "Well, this is garbage." And you're like, "Well, I know it's a great story. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep working on it." And it's like, that sounds really hard. Sounds really tough.
Yeah. I mean, my advice has always been like, hey, if you receive tough criticism, feel it. It's okay. Like, it's okay. Hey, it sucks if you worked hard on something and someone comes up and goes, "So I hate 99% of it, but I don't mind 1% of it." And you're like, "Cool. I'm going to go scream in a closet." And then you do. But I think that's part of growing, right? Is if somebody offers criticism, or hell, my guys, I go on Goodreads all the time because I'm dumb. And I look at Audition for the Fox, and I have found it is so goddamn funny, because you literally can't tell when somebody will like. My favorite day was, there was a 1-star review for the book, and it was like, "Trike, DNF, couldn't finish, couldn't even begin to get into it. What's happening? Who are these people? Why am I even here? Dumb."
If only you read a little bit more.
Right. And then it's what is it? This big one. But then the next person was like, 5 stars, loved it, so much fun, what a roller coaster, these characters are great, I love the world, but you can't, you never know. So all you can ever do is believe in yourself, learn when something needs to change, because the story will be better because of it, and learn when someone just wants it to change because they're not vibing with it. And that's cool too. So to answer Curtis's question, first of all, real quick, in case people who are watching or listening who don't know what this book is,
give us a quick spiel on the book, because
I was like, we should mention.
Now that we're 38 minutes in, tell us about your book.
Well, but who's counting? Am I right, Dakota? So Audition for the Fox is a novella. It's my debut book. It is, I've always described it as time travel meets trickster gods. I have described it as, what if Aesop from Aesop's Fables got into an arm wrestling contest with Terry Pratchett, but it didn't really matter who won or lost, because Cat Valenti, Max Gladstone, and Nevo were behind them stealing all their money. Who's calling me? My brother wants to FaceTime, but I will tell him I'm in a meeting.
Put him on record right now. I'm just kidding.
For all the world to see.
So yes, time travel, trickster gods. It is a story of growing up. It is a story about a young person trying to find their way. It is a story about community and the value of community, the value of art, the value of joy and comedy and delight in times, especially of darkness. And to that end, like, it's about fascism and oppression and facing down those things and facing down people who want to keep you down. And how do you show up even when you're somebody who feels like I do, which is that I feel like sometimes it feels like I'm the class clown and I got handed a bat with a bunch of nails in it, and someone said, "Cool, go fight the dragon." And I'm like, "Honk honk, what?" Like, how do I do that? How do you know? And can you, is there, what can be done when you feel like even on your worst day, you need to stand up for your neighbors and your people? Like I've described, like, I had some kids ask me one time, like, or some parents like, "Hey, is it appropriate for kids?" And I was like, look, if they're younger, like 10, 11, 12, but they're reading at a fairly high level, I think that they could follow. I think they could enjoy it. I think that my main purpose with writing this book, because alas, it is still relevant, which fucking sucks. I wrote this letter to librarians and booksellers, like at the early part of like marketing, when you're like, "Hey, librarian bookseller, read my book." And the first line was like, "I'm so sorry that this is relevant. I hate that this can't just be something that feels timely or whatever, but like, in the grand scheme of things, that we still, we have goddamn Nazi pricks out here trying to run the world, and determine who gets to be people or not." And, but I tell these parents and kids, I'm like, look, it's a dark book. There are things that are dark in it. There are things that are bad. There are moments of sadness. There are moments of violence. There are moments of defeat. And, though you have to, it works in this book because you have to take it seriously. And that was my goal when I was writing it, was like, young girl gets sent back in time 300 years prior to ensure that a rebellion happens that begins the overthrow of this fascistic, oppressive empire from across the sea. And this is like her audition to make her way as like an adult, as a real person, to be chaperoned by one of the gods for reasons that get into the book. Read it, blah, blah, blah. Like, it has to matter and it has to be real, not just for Nezi's sake, because if Nezi doesn't think it's real, she's not going to try. If Nezi thinks it's not real, then she's not going to push herself. Or she might do something very stupid and get herself killed. And likewise for the reader, the moments of levity, the moments of joy, the moments of kindness and like camaraderie and community, those ring more loudly, more resonantly, because we have treated things seriously that need to be treated seriously. You can and should laugh at fascists because what they want is fucking ridiculous, but laughing at fascism, laughing at the notion that anybody would try that, or trying to not take these things seriously, is how you end up empowering those very people, because they are relying on you to not take it seriously, because the moment you take it seriously is when you begin to oppose them. So, it's got a lot going on. This is a book. It's a small book. There's a lot going on. But I feel like that is sort of what it's about, is the balance, right? You're trying to illustrate ways to resist, ways to stand up for others and support your community without getting yourself killed. But you also have to survive, like you have to take care of yourself, like we were saying, and rely on other people to help take care of you too. And righteous rant over.
Very similar theme to With Only a Razor Between.
Oh, cool. Oh, you read that. Sweet.
I did.
Oh, hell yeah.
Very
Thank
similar
you.
theming.
I wonder why I've been so obsessed with illustrating ways to stand up to empire recently.
There's absolutely no way to apply that right now.
Not at all.
Zilch, baby. Yeah, I a lot of my early work And I kind of think this is where like that little like a couple of years gap where I was taking a break but wasn't selling any work. I kind of think like I was growing in that time, but I think part of me was refiguring how to write because I was sort of a lot of my early work is very like bittersweet and tragic and sad and like, oh, at what cost? And I love bittersweet stuff. I'm never gonna not love bittersweet. But there was, that shift was right around 2016, 17, 18. Like, you know, and I think I got there with my story Godmeat, which we can see the art for that over my shoulder here by the
I was
wonderful
going to ask about that later on. I'd really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's by the amazing Galen Dara. She's incredible. If I ever get the chance to do a short fiction collection, I want that as the cover because she's great, and I want to call it Godmeat and Other Delicacies. So
Sign me up for a copy when it happens.
Hell yeah. But yeah, the long and short of it is, a part of my brain was rewiring. What are the stories we need these days? Or rather, what are the stories that I want to be telling? How can I start putting that out into the world? And like, am I reflecting the truth of the world as I see it and as I'm interested in it in a way that makes sense? So
yeah.
Yeah, not everything's like that. There's a story about a guy who burns his entire life away for power, and that has something to do with the world these days too, ain't it? So it's not always Empire, but there's a lot of modern stuff that I feel like my brain has taken and alchemized and transmuted into story. And sometimes it just has like flying jellyfish in it.
Well, the world needs flying jellyfish sometimes.
Yeah, the flying jellyfish make everything better.
Thank you,
I do
gentlemen.
have
I think
2 points that I actually wrote down so I wouldn't forget.
But should we first go back to the question that we missed, or should we go to the points and then go back to the question?
I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it again, even though I wrote it down.
Okay.
One of the points that we talk about when we do like our RSQ rating, we do like 10 points is emotional impact, which is something that books can either do really well or not. We've been reading a lot of indie books recently. And one of the things we notice is that like we have people that will either write things that they think that the reader should feel and it just doesn't translate that well, or they're like, my character is feeling this, so they like say how the character is feeling instead of showing us how the character is feeling.
Mhm.
And I think your book does a really good job of, you can tell that the character is going through things and feeling things, and because it's relatable and simple but easy enough to digest, like I feel it as the reader. There was points where I'm like, especially like the fox and the wolf story, I was like, wow, okay, like they were very strong points in the just that emotional impact is something I felt like stood out really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then the other thing is I wanted just to allude to the fact that you said I'm losing it. Oh my gosh, I should have started with this one. Basically, I felt like the main character, Nessie, she, yeah, almost is kind of like you kind of like wrote yourself as this character, in the sense it's like your writing process, like you had all these different stepping stones to get to where you are today. So you had to go through 96 different pillars until you met the fox. And then and now we have this because you kept going until you hit that last pillar. That was your pillar. So thank you for sticking with it, because then we got this awesome story and then we get to talk today.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And thank you for reading me for filth, because I didn't realize that until now. So, oh no, the subtext has become text.
No.
But I appreciate that. I mean, that's, like I fully agree. Like there's a lot of me in the character of Nessie, whom I adore. And I think I've said this before, at events and stuff, is like, Nessie's who I want to be on my worst day. Like, there's something to her, of course, like she can put up with a lot. She's the grandchild of the bison. Like she's sturdy. I've described her as like, she has a con stat of 19 and, wisdom of 8, but like, she can put up with a lot, and she can stand there and take it. She can protect other people. And even when things are at their hardest, she doesn't give up, even if she's like, this is fucking hard. Because that's what the work is sometimes. The writing, society, life, my friends, life, life is the work. The work sometimes sucks, but you got to do it. With Nessie, she's really my vehicle for exploring like because powerlessness is what I feel the most. You read about a tragedy that happens halfway across the country, like something awful today, and I feel powerless. What can I do? Hell, I imagine the community in Minneapolis affected today by this horrible murder by an ICE agent of this young woman who's trying to leave, who was, quote unquote, following orders. I imagine they feel powerless, and they're there, and they're in the middle of it, and it's horrible and it's bleak. But I think what I was doing my best with Nezzy was sometimes you will be powerless. Sometimes you will feel those things and it will be true. And there is nothing you can do. And that's okay, because you can't always do something. You can't always fix something. But you're going to sometimes feel powerless, and there is stuff you can do. There are ways you can give back and contribute and push and like keep going and find ways you can give back. And yeah, like I said, like I would love to be on my worst day, Nezzy on her worst day. Somebody who can look at the shit and go, well, that's shit, and still be able to take a couple of steps towards it and do what they can. Even if it's like, even if you're the person like you're a part of a chain, like passing buckets of water to like put out a fire, guess what? That chain doesn't exist if you leave. You can be essential to the great machine of society. Even if you are not the person running into the house on fire, you don't want to be that person. You can still hand out water to people or get blankets or whatever, right? Like it's giving back how you can. And yeah, I don't know, not to get super real, but like that has been on my mind today, especially. Yeah.
Well, you can tell you're very passionate about what you have wrote, at least from, I've only read this. I haven't read any of your other work like Dakota here, but I think that you can definitely tell from what you put on the page is stuff that you feel and you put yourself into your characters and things that you believe. So I think that translates really well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. I feel with a capital F a lot with a capital AL. But yeah, I mean, that's why I a lot of that goes into the work, which is nice.
We're very nerdy. We like to talk about books and equate them to like technical points and give them scores based off of how well they do things. So we talk about things like emotional impact a lot. We talk about like world building and character development.
Now, world building, those are both fun topics for me. I love
and
those.
I really enjoyed the way that you did like world building and backstory for the character in the like flashbacks, and the way that it was woven into like, not the right word to say is probably not like one-off statements, but like Nezzy recalling things that she's like done or been through. I really enjoyed the world building through that. And I read probably more short stories this year than I've read ever before. And I've just been blown away by how well authors can write character development, world building, how well they can build depth into a short story. And it's totally like rewired my brain reading other stories and being like, oh man, I just really need more depth. And it's like, I know we have like 400 pages, but I just really need more depth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really interesting to see. And I've greatly appreciated it with Audition for the Fox. That was one of the things I talked the most about to Curtis, was like, hey, I'm really loving how in the backstories here, we're learning all about the world. It doesn't feel like obviously I want more, and I could read more about this world, but it didn't feel like, oh man, we just didn't get enough of, I don't understand. I didn't get enough here. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Like thank you, because like I can often be too shy in accepting praise or something like that. Like it's a lot of demurring from my end because of my Irish Catholic nature, but
Irish gangster.
Well, one can only hope. But when it comes to the world building, and character, I do feel very proud of that, because I cut my teeth on short fiction, and I like epic fantasy, which, if you like those two things, they don't always go together. So it's a lot of work, and it's a delicate art to get right. I mean, there are things I mentioned in that book that I would love to like have gone into further depth and detail on them. But the guiding star for me when it comes to world building, especially in something like Audition for the Fox, like I cheated and had those interspersed stories in between everything. I cheated.
Which I love that, by the way.
I don't think that was cheating at all. I felt like that was one of the more brilliant parts of the book, because like we got like a fox like just as he was, right? As we were told as he was supposed to be. And then with each of the backstories, we got like each piece. Oh, I activated my camera. It's gonna move with me now. It just we got like the rest of the fox through the backstory. Like if this was what we got in the beginning by what we're told, this is actually the fox. We got this with the turtle, the stallion,
Yep.
the all that. So
yeah.
that was one of my favorite parts was the cheating that you did.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant as well.
Well, maybe not cheating. We'll call it Trixie in honor of
There we go.
the fox. And just real quick, so the fox is always using they them pronouns.
Oh yes, yep.
It's just very it totally happens. And I appreciate it. It was a tricksy little, even though it was the last story, the fox and the turtle was the first one I wrote. When it came to insights into Sidane and like who they were as a character and like what they were like. And when I wrote about that with the turtle, I was like, okay, that's who we're dealing with. Got it. And so I really appreciate that. And so those stories actually, again, this is like the very little fiddly bits of writing, but like I give full credit to Jamie on this because Jamie was the one who was like, hey, can we make these stories more specific? Can we chisel this further and give these weight? Because now what you're seeing in the final product is every story is a different kind of story. And so we're learning, like The Fox and the Spider, for example, that's a kid's story. The version we're hearing of the kids' version is call and response, right? You've got this sort of traveling bard doing this call and response with kids. So what the kids have to say has to be very simple. And we learn, like, oh, there's oral traditions here. Cool. We're on the road with these kids. Like, this is common for a young kid. Same with like Nezzy and her grandma, like the creation story, like, that we're learning is, how do they talk about the beginning of the world? Like, what's the lens we're all seeing these things through? Temple records and first-hand accounts. Like, these are things that are telling us about the world without going into depth of like every year an acolyte comes and shares it, and I think it's very important, like, as far as I can remember, none of these stories are told from the fox's perspective. The fox is, I'm currently tapping away on my ideas for book 2. And,
Ooh, that was one of our questions.
Mhm.
Happy to get into it, but like, why I love the fox, why I think the fox exists as a god, as a trickster in this world, as a pillar, is because the fox is the most like a mortal of the pillars. They get jealous, they get pissed, they get envious, they get depressed, they get snippy, they get snarky, like,
And
and
experience great loss.
yeah. It's just what they do about those things can have larger ramifications on a more grand level than anything a person might do. But like book 2 is a lot of like, oh, that's a reason why Ren in the beginning mentioned maybe there are not so great stories of the fox. Stories where the fox is maybe not a villain, but they were kind of shitty one time. And it resulted in the stars freezing in the heavens for, a year, because they didn't give something back to their brother because they were feeling petty. So there's these little bits and bobs. But like my like central lodestar for world building in general is like, you have to keep in mind what characters know and what they don't know. That is going to give you a real direction in terms of what you're exploring and why. Nezzy knows a lot. Nezzy's a history kid. She's a temple kid. Like, she's gonna know a shit ton about the pillars and the gods, and she knows somewhat about this time period. Like, she's gonna be pretty in the know about stuff. But she's not gonna fucking know what weapons and military and strategy and so like keeping in mind those things that are important to the character and what they know is always like, ooh, I would love to go on and like describe what this means if you've got this rain scroll tattoo from Kafanu, but like can't get into it. There's no point in doing it. I want to add texture and I want to add depth, but I don't want to draw the reader. I want to keep the reader here with Nezzy because seeing through Nezzy's eyes is just as important. And secondly, like the way I think about it entirely is like world building is scaffolding around the actual building that you're making. Not to make it so literal, but like when you are building a world, when you're building the structure, you're building it just enough so that it's stable. You're not like, you're not gonna I mean you can do whatever you want, of course, but like to me, solid world building is addressing and containing the world you've made and keeping the scaffolding set around it, but not overdoing it or overburdening it and throwing things out of balance. Like yeah, like I mean, I don't actually I was talking to a writer friend the other day and she was like, "Oh, I bet you have all this stuff written down." I was like, "No." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "No, I got an idea of stuff, but like I don't have any kind of world guide or like the only thing I have written down is I know all 99 pillars. That's it. That's what I got." And she was like, "That's whoa." And I was like, I know enough if I wanted to go into different directions, I could, figure that out. But like, I didn't need to. There was no, this is not like an epic fantasy book with, 800 pages. So I was able to devote that time and energy to those stories, to the things that mattered. And everything else, like, like there was a throwaway line about, so and so city is above the hairline, HARE. And interviewer was kind of like, "Wait, does that mean that the cartography of this world is localized by pillars?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe."
Sure.
And she was like, "Do you know for certain?" I was like, "No." I was like, "It's cool. I kind of think it." And again, like if you gave me 10 minutes and said, "Well, why is it called the hairline?" I would probably go, "Oh, well, it was probably the path that the hare took in a race around the world against like, their sibling. And here's what happened. Like, I would have a reason for why I wrote it in.
Sure, yeah.
But otherwise we're just giving depth. I'm like, that's my favorite part is like, if I do my job right, the reader gets to fill in the blank a little bit. The reader, like, I trust the reader. Like the beginning of this book is tough. My dad literally goes around telling people, the first few pages are a little, they're a little confusing. And he's not wrong, but I'm like, you could lead with something else, It's gotten some nice quotes, my guy. Like, but I meant it to be. It's purposeful. Nezzy's confused, so the reader's confused. Nezzy doesn't know what's going on, so the reader shouldn't either. That's not this kind of story. It's not the perspective that I was interested in. So, like it's not first person, but it's super close, third over the shoulder. And maintaining that as often as possible and then exploring these other storytelling devices in the in these short tales, like, and again, like I would love to like, if I'm lucky enough to like get a sequel or, I even have an idea for a third book down the road, but like if I was lucky enough, I'd like to like, like a court transcript where they called in Elath Rao, the Hawk of Justice, to stand witness at a trial, or like a television script and they got a special guest spot from the ant, like little bits and bobs, because it'd be fun. It'd be fun to keep trying and find new ways to describe the world. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like giving things like sideways from what the reader maybe expects.
That's something we talk about too, is something you mentioned was, oh, you wanted to do this, but I don't know if like we talk about as a reader, like our wants versus needs type thing, especially when it comes to world building. We're like, how do we feel about this? Like, did we need more? Like, was there something missing, or do we just like want more type thing?
Right.
And I think there's a difference between like you can tell type thing. But when we first started reading and reviewing, we're like, we couldn't differentiate in our heads like, oh, like this is missing. It's like, no, it's not missing. Everything you need is there. It's just you want more. And this is one of those, I feel like the story didn't need any more. It was like the length was perfect, but we wanted more. Because in my head, like my questions I was wrote down, I'm like, what are like some of the other cool pillars that like, did you have them all written down? Which you said that you knew all 99. So I was like, I wonder if he's got like some in his head, like for a future book where he goes, oh, the Griffin or something of whatever.
Brunch.
But yeah, Griffin of Brunch.
Bring me my mimosas. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've mostly ideas with Nezzy and Fox. That is like in my head. I have an idea for a definite. I mean, it can stand on its own, but I have an idea for a definite sequel, which would be like a full novel. and then like vague, wispy dream threads of a third book, which would sort of, as a taste for y'all, loop back around on the wolf.
I love that.
Ooh,
Because we
that'd be
don't,
great.
because we find out in book 2 that the wolf is actually missing. In Nezzy's timeline, no one has seen the wolf in over a century, and he cannot be found. So there's a sort of underlying mystery that would kind of pop up at the end of book 3,
Okay.
and book 2. But yeah, like it would, it would kind of tie that story in a knot somewhat. But yeah, I mean, the great thing about all of time and space being available to you is that you kind of like, my agent was kind of like, oh, like it reads like a fantasy Doctor Who, which is, uh, I mean, let's be real, Doctor Who is a fantasy as it is. But it was a nice compliment, right? And so you have all these ways you can sort of play with across time and like all these other adventures of the Fox. And yeah, like there are other stories, like there's I have a crime thriller idea for like the Hound of Loyalty, for like about an older acolyte of the Hound who's been with the Hound for many years now, who, as the acolyte of the Hound, can sniff out when somebody is lying or has broken a contract or been disloyal. And I was kind of like, well, how would that person find employ? And I thought, oh, well, authorities would probably want to use them. And then I thought, no, criminals would want to use them. Criminals would want to use them more. And so this guy's job is to literally like go to various mafias and mobs and ballrooms and and just be there and get like a heads up and be like, hey, I signed a contract with this other clan. If they start shit tonight, let me know. And his job's like, cool, I'll sniff it out. And like, gets involved in this like harebrained scheme or whatever. Like, could you do a buddy cop?
Man, that sounds so fun. There's so many
Just saying,
places
that'd be a
you
funny,
can
like,
go.
Yeah, like good cop, bad cop, a good sniffer, a bad sniffer, and they're like
Yeah, like
cat and
they're-
mousing the whole time.
Exactly. There's so many. And like part of my question to myself would be like, oh, can this world support other genres? Like, could there be a romance book? Could there be science fiction? What would that look like? Crime thriller. So, but yeah, there's plenty of opportunity. I don't know. I would love to finish out this first set of stories. I think if I'm lucky, like, I love Tachyon. I'd love to keep working with them. I have to write book 2 before they, consider it, which is totally valid, but that means I have
Seems
to,
like a good, requirement.
seems like a, fine requirement, but like, again, but I got to write it first. That means it's a little bit of time, but, yeah, I mean, book 2 essentially is Back to the Future 2, but with dragons instead of Biff.
Well, if you're
Right.
looking for arc readers,
I will absolutely keep you two in the loop on that. But yeah, no, I mean, I really love this world. I'm so glad other people are enjoying it. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there are a lot of stories out there and a lot of like, I don't know. I feel very honored that folks have been enjoying it so much, and like, I really hope I just keep writing in this world. Believe me, there are, like Dakota, we were talking about prior. Like, I got a plenty of other story ideas out there for new books and worlds and whatnot. So I will keep working because that's what you do, right? Like, I can't not do it. And I'm hoping to get a lot done this year. So fingers crossed, knock on wood, paws crossed.
2026, the year of Marty.
the year of the fox.
I appreciate that. We can hope, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like to stay in the dark a little bit in terms of like, how's it selling and what's going on? Like, I asked my publisher, Jill, and I was like, Jill, because she had emailed, and it was a very nice email. These indie book reps had said, oh, it's selling like we thought. It's selling even better than we thought it would, which is great. And they were very happy with the book. And I was like, well, speaking of sales, Jill, how is it doing? Don't tell me a number because I will explode. Because then it's like only 2,169, like I would just become abhorrent. I would be an abomination of numbers. But I was like, if you can give me a vibe, that's better. And she was like, the vibe is solid. The vibe is we're well into your print run and you'll know more as it comes. And I said, vague enough to keep me happy. Thank you. So who knows? I mean, I would love to like get considered for award nominations for it, but it's also a crowded field and there's a lot of way better writers out there than I am. So, we will take it all with a grain of salt. And I think having expectations is very un-Fox-like, and remaining open and flexible to whatever chaos comes next is preferred.
Yeah, I think I found it on a list of Goodreads short stories. That was highly rated.
That was very. Oh my god, that was very kind of. I believe my friend Sharon included it. Dude, like, to be very frank with you guys, there are times where I don't know how the hell this book has gotten this much attention, let alone like love. Like, it's very mind-boggling. I come from publicity. I worked at Erewhon Books for about 6 years, and I would always tell my authors, especially if they were newer authors and debuts, I was like, don't go to Goodreads. 'Tis the Shadowlands. Avert thy gaze and stare at the sun instead. Like, and I would just go there like, doo. But again, I've been in the industry for a very long time, and I know how to handle criticism. Like, if someone goes, they don't like my book, I go, cool, you still bought it. Or like someone's like, this sucks, and I'm like, okay, my bad. Hope the next one is you like the next one, or whatever. Oh, my favorite recent negative review is somebody going, I would have liked it more if not for all the cussing. And I was like, cool, that's where we're gonna hang our hat. Okay, person.
That's the thing. That's the thing that got you.
It's so subjective. But yeah, like it has like almost 2,000 ratings and like almost 400 reviews. That's crazy for a small indie book, for an indie press. I don't even know half these people. They're just reading it, which is crazy. And I feel very, very lucky to have gotten that attention. And again, like I've been in the industry a while. Like, I've got a lot of friends and contemporaries and colleagues and people who are excited for me. And I have people, some of whom are friends and some are heroes who I've never even spoken to before until now, but who love the book and wanted to blurb it. And still, like, I'm still receiving messages from people in the industry that I'm like, I didn't think you knew who I was. That's cool.
That's incredible.
That's neat. Weird. Like, I was talking, author of The Night Circus, Erin Morgenstern, if you know her. Night Circus, Starless Sea, she's awesome. But we were like, what a surreal thing this industry is, even at like its most boring. She was like, I've run into Margaret Atwood so many times, I just call her Peggy. I'm like, Peggy? And she's like, Peggy. Yeah, it's a shorthand for Margaret, apparently. And that's what our shared publicist calls her. That's Peggy. I was like, okay, that's crazy. And she's like, yeah, like, they're like, and she's a very established author. She's been around for a very long time. Night Circus is a foundational text of the 2000s. Like, and even for her to be like, this shit's nuts. And I'm like, tell me about it. It doesn't get old. I just like remain eternally grateful. Like, that's all I think I can ever do. Right. Is like I said for the very beginning, like, attention and time are things you do not get back. You don't get them back. There's no machine for that yet. No one has invented it. No one has appeared from a portal from the year 3200 and said, here's a watch to get back time. That'd be cool. Hasn't happened.
We can't bottle it up and sell it yet.
You can't, not yet. So yeah, like, utterly baffled, but 10,000 times more grateful that folks have, you two people, I didn't even know you guys until last week. That was great. Like, you guys, but like, you saw a cover, and God bless that cover. Shout out to Elizabeth Story at Tachyon Publications. Elizabeth, you're a goddamn hero. You know it. If you're listening, take your bows. Here are your flowers. Enjoy, because that cover is half the reason anybody looks at that book twice. No one sees that. No one says Martin Cahill and goes, an art thief wrote a book. No one looks at that book and sees my name and goes, Marty, except my mom and my dad. And even then, they probably don't want to do it in public because they want to make it about them. But like, so that cover sells books, and it does.
That's one of the other things we talk about. We don't rate books based off the cover, but we do a like obligatory like, let's rate the book
cover type deal.
We judge at the beginning of all of our podcasts. Let's judge the book by its cover.
Well, everyone says don't judge a book by its cover, but like, your cover is essentially your marketing to people walking around a bookstore. Because like, so I don't know if this was intentional, but when Dakota sent me like the cover for this, he goes, go ahead and read this. It looked like an older book to me. Like, it looked like it had an older vibe. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I read it, and because I don't look up anything about the book beforehand, I go in blind. I don't look up the author. nothing against you. I don't care what you did. I want to read the book that I have right in front of me.
I appreciate that.
And I read it and I'm like, wow, like now I want to know more because I really enjoyed it. And I was like, this was written a couple of months ago. Like, that's crazy. So yeah, we loved the cover because of what we just talked about.
I really, really appreciate it. And like, you know, and that's what's interesting, right? Is like when you're writing, even like I was very lucky. I had Brent in my corner who I would send chapters to every few months, and like such a star. Totally cool that it didn't end up at Tor. Like, great. So maybe I'll send them something else someday. Cool. Like we're already planning on that someday. And but even then, writing is a very lonely thing. It is you in the page. Even when you're co-writing, it's you, your friend in the page. Like, but once you're published, it's a team sport. It is a team sport. It is you, it is your agent, it is your publicist, it is your production head, it is your publisher, it is all your contacts, all your friends you reach out to. And again, you have to believe in yourself. You have to like be okay sending an email being like, hey, my friend Sharon at Goodreads, do you have a copy of my book? I would love to send it to you. Cool. If you don't want to, you get 1,000 books a day. And like, but you gotta like be your own best advocate, in the words of my mother-in-law, because no one's gonna do it for you. For her, it's about making doctor appointments, but it does carry over into the creative industry.
Directly translates.
Directly, 1-to-1, baby.
Marketable skill.
Exactly. But yeah, it's a team sport. Like without that cover, without my publicist's work, without Jamie's edits and her support, without my agent managing things, without my wife, who basically is my manager, managing me, like, you know, it's a very different experience. And again, I'm just super duper, ultra mega, bonkers grateful that like I get to play, you know, at all.
Very nice. So when you were talking about your dad describing your book, oh, the first couple of pages get past it, blah blah, and you had said like, oh, there's plenty of good quotes in there. Is there any quotes off the top of your head? I know it's like pick your favorite line as an actor or whatever. But there are any quotes that still like stick out to you type thing? Because I have a couple highlighted that I was like, oh, these were like stood out. Like in the couple I have, I'll share while you're looking is life is a story. Stories are answers to questions you learn by living. One of my favorites, and I want to quote it to one of my very rigid friends, is nothing angers the rigid like a person who goes with the flow. And I was like, that cooks. I love that.
Sorry.
And there was plenty of other ones.
Oh man.
If not, that's okay too. These are just the ones that like stuck out to me. And I was like, I wonder if you have something in your head that you're like, you know what, that
when I wrote
sticks out
that
to me.
line, it was important.
Yeah, I think that there actually is a line at, toward the end.
I have a long quote about art that was really good.
Oh, the middling art speech.
Think so. I think it's close to halfway through. Mm-hmm.
With Taylor, yeah.
Because if you're a very bad poet will see your art and wish to try harder, and a very good poet will see your art and try to be better. Someone who has never made any art at all will see your art and know it's possible for them to try too. I was like, wow, inspirational.
There's a Goodreads person who said, did this guy back into being okay with mediocre reviews of his own work? And I was kind of like, honestly, man, yeah, I think, yeah. I'm glad you like that. People have enjoyed the middling art one, but it's true. Like, you know, I think I feel the way about my own poetry. Like I'm in this grad school now and I'm taking poetry. I love poetry. I'm learning to love it again and learning to write it again. And what I've realized is poetry does not have to be good to exist. Same with anything, like, and giving myself permission to just enjoy the process. And yeah, I think Sidane has been present as I've been working on my poetry. And I did have that middling art speech, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be so much fun." But yeah, I think, hey, at the end of the day, even if a book is kind of like mid, you're like, "Hey, you still wrote a fucking book. It's out there. That's cool. You did that. That's amazing. You should be proud of yourself." Okay, so there's two. Cool. Yeah, there's one. Okay, so I think page 170. Sidane says,
my digital Kindle edition.
And I think like this sort of ended up being the like one of the theses statements of this book, which was, we help stories, Nezzy. We nudge, we correct, we push when need be, but we are not a part of any story but our own. The story moves on without us, and if we stayed to see how it ended, well, we'd leave our own stories behind. And I remember really, really loving that when I wrote that. I think it made, to me, it was sort of like again, like a mantra, basically, of like anything moving forward with Nezzy and the Fox is going to have to contend with that. Of course, the Fox doesn't know sort of what I'm planning for them, but even then, as a thesis statement, that I can see, like, I think book 1 is embracing that statement. I think book 2 will be um fighting that statement. I think book 2 is going to be a challenge to the notion that you have to stay uninvolved in some ways, because I think there are going to be different challenges. Um,
I
and
love
then
when
the
a
ne-
book 1 has a
yeah,
theme and then book 2 counters that theme or, like, reinforces it with the counter, like the devil on the shoulder type thing. I think that's really a cool way to
yeah.
do things.
Thank you. And I think, like, yeah, like, I think that's what I'm interested in book 2, like, thematically, is like, this is the book Nezzy comes into her own, but Nezzy's very in sync with the Fox. Nezzy and the Fox are very much on the same page here. They are working well together. Like, they're a good team. And, like, I think that's always going to be true. And I think book 2 is going to be setting up, what happens after Nezzy has a couple of months of experience, a year of experience under her belt. What happens when people maybe start praying to Nezzy and she starts receiving divine will and divine power as a saint, which the Fox regards like you would like a case of chicken pox, of like, don't let yourself become a saint. You're just itchy all the time and no lotion can help you. Um, but what happens when, like, if you're an acolyte, what happens when you and your god are not on the same page? What if you want something different than your god? And what happens? So that could be a very, very interesting theme. But I think
But yeah,
that's the, yeah. Oh, good.
that thesis was I think that's a good example, that part of the story and how you communicate emotional impact without saying Nezzy felt sad. But like it sounds so juvenile to say that, like, the average author is not just writing Nezzy felt sad, but it it communicated it very weighty. You could feel the tension, the sadness in the air. That you could feel Nezzy misses her friends. You could feel that she's understanding that the story needs to move on and that she couldn't have stayed, and that
Yeah.
it was a good way to communicate it.
I appreciate that. I think that I will say that is the moment I got chills, was actually writing that. I'll do that as my second quote, because uh there is it's when Nezzy, spoilers, when Nezzy returns home and is looking at the Fox, and like for the first time is really like there is something of like the fae, of like fairy. There is that like somewhat ethereal, strange quality to them. Like they are, like, for all that we love the Fox, and the Fox is like a person. The Fox is not a person. The Fox is not a mortal person. They are an immortal person. They are an immortal being. They are not human. And there's that yeah, I mean, even just, I mean, if I have permission to read it all. Um let's see. Their gaze was full and enigmatic, their shoulders tense and shaking, as though they wished they could say 1,000 things but only had the ability to utter a single phrase. Standing in their divine raiment, smelling of lavender and sage and ash, Nezzy couldn't bear their terrible beauty and cold silence anymore. Followed up with, the Fox cocked their head as though a far-off animal had caught their ear. They had never seemed so otherworldly, so alien. Sighing in a voice like a gentle rain meeting a still pond, they kneeled down to look her in the eye. A soft, warm hand came up to meet her cheek, and their thumb gently smoothed the tears from her face. Uh, and the Fox goes on to say that sadly, it is always worth it, to do what they do. Um, and yeah, like that, I think, to me, that's again like what's interesting about their dynamic. And Nezzy's like in her early 20s. She's still young, and carpet after carpet has been pulled out from under her in a matter of minutes. And I think that, to me, was, I gave myself um these chills of going like, with this, because I know in my head Sidane wants to stay and wants to help her and wants to help her through this, and knows that they are utterly incapable of doing that. They will be baffled by the situation, and as much as it hurts, the best thing they can do is leave. And yeah, like, it reads almost like as like a little betrayal. And you know I don't know, I always, that was like one of the last things I had added to the book. Because I needed I needed that gut punch. I needed that moment of the Fox and Nezzy together, kind of like, we did all this. What a romp. what's the cost to this? And it's like, yeah, this is what it costs. You get to be an NPC in people's lives.
That was another
Um,
Sidane. That was another one of my questions, was how to pronounce
yeah.
the fox's name. Sidane.
I say Sidane. They would tell you there's no wrong way to say their name. They have many names across many cultures. Let's see. I can actually, I can pull up a few if you want to hear a few, because in other cultures, they view the pillars as different concepts. Let's see. I know.
Turn on the Jeopardy noise.
Yep.
I do know in one culture they are known as
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub. I know the hangman's laugh is one of them. The idea that you would drop the rope
Ominous.
to kill them, and the rope would just snap, and they'd start laughing. You know, this idea of like, oh, you know, they're always going to find a
Get
way to
the
slip the noose. Yeah, I'll find it later. If I find it, I'll send it to you guys.
Definitely.
But yeah, like they have many names. There's no. Oh, here we go. I said to an interviewer, the fox of tricks can sometimes be coyote grinning, or the hangman's joke, or rainbow shadow fang twirling, depending on the people. So, you know, again, different concepts of like, do you view the pillars as animals like the Oranoia, or do you see them as color and nature and the environment, like folks from Kafanu, or like, you know, whatever. So there's again, some of that texture and some of that depth, but not like a whole world doc being like, in the age of iron, you know, like perhaps someday.
Well, we are dwindling on time, but before we wrap up, is there anything that you love to talk about or that you don't get to talk about? Something, if you were given the mic and there was something that you wanted to communicate to either readers or about your book or about yourself, floor is yours. What's something that you don't get to talk about that you wanna mention? Which I know I shouldn't have led with, we're dwindling on time, and then handed you an open floor with no bookend, but I'm trusting you.
I will keep it. I will do my best to keep it brief. And I will start by first answering Curtis's original question. I actually took a screenplay class to adapt work this year. So I've started working on the script for Audition for the Fox just for
I
fun.
feel like it would be such a fun screenplay.
It'd be fun. It's been fun so far. It's a very different medium than fiction. But I would think either an animated Studio Ghibli version would be cool.
That's exactly what I was going to say with Studio Ghibli. That was my number one idea when it came up. I was like, I wonder if he's thinking about that.
Or I'm going to throw this at you. Studio Leica does like Kubo and the Two Strings, all the 3D puppeteering. I was like, that could be cool too. Well, thank you. I mean, first of all, thank you guys. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Dakota. Thank you for having me. This has been an amazing conversation. Y'all are awesome. I'm so sorry for rambling. It's sort of my je ne sais quoi, but like I need to get it under a little bit of le control. So I appreciate you being open for that. And thanks for reading again. Thank you for reading the book. Like I genuinely appreciate it, because you didn't have to, and the cover drew you in, and you stayed for the story, and I really appreciate that. I don't think there's much I would say, given like my that I don't get to talk about enough, but I will say, because I think it always bears saying, to those who read, or those who are watching or listening or whatever, whether it's now, 20 years from now, thank you for being here. Thank you for reading. Thank you for not giving up on books. And please be brave. I think be a little bit more courageous than you think you can be, because you can be. And the only way we get through any of this is together. So take care of yourself, drink water, be kind to yourself and other people. And if you ever feel powerless, maybe you are, but not when you're with other people.
Very well said.
Well said.
Heart emoji.
Make it float up across the screen.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to come on. I don't feel like you ranted too much. It was great. It was really nice to just hear you talk about your book and talk about yourself and talk about everything. It was great. Thank you very much.
It was one of those nice ones where, like you said, you called it like, oh, thank you for reading as a filler read. Haha. Like we read it like in between other things, but this is where we find some of our best books, is we're just like offhand, like someone recommends it, or we just see it, we're like, let's just try it out. And one of our categories we always rate books on and give a point for is lasting impact. And a lot of books don't hit this mark because there are a lot of cool books out there, but some of them are the same, you know, even though it was great, it's kind of just another iteration of something that's already there. So a lot of them don't get this point, and your book was one of those that, like, it was an easy point here for the lasting impact. It was something that, you know,
shucks.
it was our last read of the year, second to last read of the year, but it stood out among, even though it had the recency bias, it stood out amongst the, you know, I read 74 books this year, he read 100, so like it stood out amongst all those, amongst some very big books and big names. So thank you
That's really cool.
for writing this and for talking with us, and for taking the time out of your day to
You got to be
here.
my 99th and 100th read. This was my 99th, and Razor was my 100th read. Or 101st?
Number of pillars couldn't be more divinely planned if I had planned it.
Wow.
And thank you. I mean, I will say, like, it's been very cool to see people be like, I don't think I've ever read anything like this before. To all writers out there, if you're not sure what your writing is for anybody, who gives a shit? If you're enjoying it, having fun, make it as weird as you want, because your work will find its readers. And I'm glad that mine has found readers here. And thank you so much again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yay! We've done it. We made it.
Oh, good job, Fuzzy.
Sorry, don't mind me. I don't know where that came from.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thank you, everybody, for watching at home. If you haven't yet, go ahead, pick this book up. Check it out. Audition for the Fox, Martin Cahill. And we will see you guys next time. RSQ out.
RSQ out.